Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of our Black Businesswoman series. And today I am just doubly excited about our guest. Now, from overcoming gatekeepers in publishing to creating a platform for underrepresented voices, Daniella Blechner has built Conscious Dreams Publishing into a home for storytellers who refuse to be silenced. With over 300 published books and a growing community of authors, she's not just changing lives, she's rewriting the industry. In this conversation, Daniella shares her journey from rejection to revolution, proving that Black women don't have to wait for permission to tell their stories. Without further ado, let's welcome Daniella. Hello.
Hello. What a lovely intro. Hey, Cammy, how are you doing?
I'm awesome. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Very happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you. And for those of you who don't know, I'm hoping that most of you follow me. I've actually been on Daniella's podcast as well. So you definitely have to check her out on YouTube so you can follow her podcast where she features a lot of authors. Now, the beautiful part about Daniella is she's not here in the United States. She is over in the UK. So a lot of the authors that she features are authors that you've probably never even heard of and you wouldn't get the chance to hear of unless you were on her platform. It's a lot of underrepresented voices, and she does an amazing job with helping them get out.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
With that being said, let's jump into our interview. So my first question to you is, what was your first experience with publishing, and when did you realize there was a lack of diverse voices in the industry?
So thank you for that question. My first experience with publishing was coming as a writer. I'm a writer first and foremost, so my dream was always to be an author. From age 4, I'd always say, I'm going to be an author. So I published my first book in 2014, and it was called Mr. Wrong, so very different to my other books. Here we go. The relationship book. I've got my Mr. Right now, but it's a collection of stories written by women and some men as well, and it delves into belief systems around relationships, love, ourself, self-worth, celebratory stories, tongue-in-cheek stories, and also self-development bits. And so I did what they tell you to do. I read a book called Getting Published by Harry Bingham, and the first step was get an agent. So I sent off a query letter to all these different agents, a bit of information about the book, myself, marketing, and I waited for about 3 to 6 months. After 3 to 6 months, all the letters came in, 1 or 2. We love your writing, very witty, very topical. However, we're looking for somebody with more of a social media platform. Social media platform? I didn't know where that was really at the time, or someone with more of a marketing plan. And I thought that was your job. And then I'd stopped writing while I was waiting. And then I did what they tell you not to do, and that's to apply to traditional publishers. So I sent off all my letters again, off to the big companies, HarperCollins, all the companies that you need an agent for. And I stopped writing, and I waited and waited and waited again. And then after about 3 to 6 months, letters came in, 1. Hi, Daniella, love your writing, but we don't accept unsolicited authors. And at that point, I realized, I had an epiphany. I wasn't waiting for a response. I was waiting for validation, someone to say, your story matters. These other women's stories matters. You matter. Your voice matters. And I just said to myself, by hook or by crook, I have to do this myself because I've got these really valuable stories from women here. And by hook or by crook, I'm going to do it. So I researched passionately how to set up a publishing house. And I did it myself, got the editors, typesetters, designers, learned a great deal along the way. And then lots of people started coming to me asking for help. And you had the question about when did I realize there was a lack of diversity? I think always subconsciously, but it didn't come to my consciousness until I started going down this journey myself. So as a reader from very young, I never saw characters that looked like me or authors who looked like me. But when I published my first book, I had mainly at the beginning lots of Black women asking, can you help me publish this extraordinary everyday women who've overcome extraordinary things, saying that they didn't feel their voice was heard. Some of them maybe did have a traditional publishing deal or had the opportunity to go and have an agent, but they were told, can you change Abiola to Samantha? Or, it's not commercial enough, or can you just dull this bit down? And I thought, well, we need to have a platform where our authenticity is preserved and our stories are told through us, ourselves, rather than through somebody else's or for somebody else's eyes. So that was one of the big reasons I set this up. And yeah, the publishing industry, certainly in the UK, is very it definitely can be more diverse, but we're doing a lot ourselves now as authors to change that.
Yeah, it's not just in the UK, Daniella. It is not.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. Now, many Black women are discouraged from stepping into industries with limited representation. What gave you the confidence to move forward despite these barriers?
Do you mind just asking the question again?
I said many Black women are actually discouraged from stepping into industries with limited representation. What gave you the confidence to move forward despite the barriers that you faced?
Listen, we've got one life here in this body. Like, I think it's important for us to be bold, because if the people before us weren't bold, we would be. I used to have, I was going to wear earrings, and they say, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. We have to be the next generation's wildest dreams. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. I don't want to sit here. I don't want to get to the end of my life and say, I didn't take that leap. I didn't try. I didn't make a change. I didn't try at least to break a barrier. We're here to make change. We're here to create a better life for our younger people coming through, so they can see and experience something different. So Absolutely. If that's not enough encouragement, I don't know what is.
Now, what were some of the first steps you took to build Conscious Dream Publishing into a business rather than just a passion project?
Yeah. Well, initially, like I said, I did this because I wanted to publish my first book. Mm-hmm. I wasn't thinking about other people. I had no idea it was going to change into or transform into all these different things. So I met somebody. She's actually publishing with us again. But this is in 2014 when I just published my book. And she was writing a book. And I said, I'll help you. So she was my very first mentee, Janine Cummings. And I helped her publish her book, and she did really well. And I thought, well, that was fantastic. And then I started helping other people, connecting them to editors, typesetters, designers. I mean, you know all the roles, Cammy, right? Because You've got your own publishing house, you know how it goes. And so I was connecting them with all these people and sort of managing the projects. And then they did really well. And I thought, dang.
You're on to something here.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm a teacher. I'm a former teacher. So I love mentoring and guiding and teaching. And I love literature. I thought, why not I just fuse these together and actually set this up as an official company and just get going? And, we've published over 350 authors' books.
Yes.
So it's obviously a need for people to have their voices heard in a way where they feel trusted. Someone can trust to guide them along the way.
Okay. Now, this is something that has, especially with some of the Black business women that I've talked to, is often challenging for them. How did you navigate funding and financial challenges while starting out, especially as a Black woman in business?
Well, when I started out, I mean, I look at this now, I think, Lord, what was I doing? I was using my own money. I was charging minimal. I mean, I had no idea about, what to charge. And when I did look at other, publishing houses or other companies, I was like, I can't charge. I know. I mean, a lot of them do. They are ridiculous. And there's no justification for charging what some of them charge. But I really undersold myself to the point where I look back and I think, how did I even make a profit? I was very lucky. I don't want to say lucky. I worked hard for it. I did get a scholarship with, not a scholarship, it was funding for a startup loan with Virgin. It's a company based in the UK. We have to do a business plan and pitch and show them the cash flow forecast. Not my favorite thing. I didn't have anything to do with it, So the finances in the beginning was difficult, but I was lucky enough to have that. yeah, I guess that's really my answer. And I think it's knowing your value, isn't it? And charging what you're worth and charging for your time and your services. That's a huge part of, having a decent business, I think.
Okay. Now, you started out doing everything yourself. What was the tipping point that made you realize you needed a team? And how did you go about finding the right people?
Yeah, I think it's when I realized I didn't have a life. I was literally, you might relate to this, Carrie.
I was here to say, ma'am, I don't know if I'm asking this for the public or for myself.
Exactly. I don't know about you, I have boundaries now, but when I was starting out, I was giving out my mobile. People were calling me because I didn't have a lot of clients, but now I've got 300, and it's not just the existing clients. You'll have people who will be calling you that you've worked with 2 years ago, and there's a technical issue. Can they change this? Can they change that? And they got to the point where people were messaging, at 2 a.m. at some points. And I thought, this is too much. I can't do all of this myself. And I've got to have boundaries, and I've got to have a team if I'm to be taken seriously, if I have to take myself seriously. Because the last thing we want to do as business owners is to create a business that we're drowning in, right? We create businesses because we want to have freedom and flexibility of our time. So I think it's when it got to that tipping point, I realized, I need to have a team, not just of professional editors and typesetters and, people doing jobs that I definitely can't do, like designers, big up designers, because I've got it all up there. I could never execute some of the amazing work they do. But it was like finding a VA, someone to do the social media, finding somebody who could, manage my diary, my appointments. You know what I mean?
Things I know what you mean. You know that. I know what you mean probably better than anyone else.
Exactly. But these things are so important. They're so important. So I think it's quite near the beginning, but gradually, as I've kind of created a format and a process, I've learned how to create processes within my business. So I'm not doing every invoice myself. There's a lot of automation now. So
okay. Now, how have you had to evolve as a leader from the time you started to now managing a full team of publishing professionals?
How have I evolved? I like to think I've changed. I think communication is very important when you've got a team. Valuing your team, because I worked I feel like my chair's sinking. It's going down. I've worked at jobs where I've worked at the very bottom, as a runner, making tea and, on set and on production companies and working long hours. So it's making sure you pay people on time. That's one of my really important things. I pay people as soon as they finish a job, they're paid. Just having good camaraderie amongst our team, I think, is a really good, an important part of being a leader, because I want people who are working, part of the Conscious Dreams publishing team, to enjoy what they do, do it with passion, want to get up in the morning and work on a project. So I think those are really important qualities as a leader as well.
Okay. Now, building a strong brand in a competitive industry is no small feat. What strategies have sort of helped you stand out and attract a steady flow of clients?
Good question. I have an amazing branding lady called Kez. So she does like banners and, decided the colors, streamlining. Another shout out to someone called Seidel. She is brilliant in terms of branding and creating systems. So we were speaking before about, doing a lot ourselves. And it's things that, in your mind, you think, oh, God, boring, but it's so important, like CRM systems, making sure when those automated systems come through, they're all branded. And, I'm really into it now. Now I know how it works, but it's just not something that I would have implemented.
Listen, it is a lot of work. And I have a strong appreciation for the people that do that. Okay.
Yeah. It's so important, though.
Yeah. So my next question to you is, what has been the most significant barrier to success for Black authors in mainstream publishing, and how is your company working to change that?
I would say significant challenge or barrier would be Representation in terms of diversity in the workplace. Now, a lot of people talk about, it being the authors and characters. Yes, 100%. I can roll off some stats. I have an event called Black Authors on the Rise that I set up in 2018, and it was because of the stats in 2017. So here in the UK, we have a report that goes out every year called Reflecting Realities. And it looks at the stats in terms of authors, the people who work within publishing industries, the illustrators, the commissioners, as well as characters in literature, children's fiction. And only 1% of characters, I mean, they use the term BAME, which is Black, Asian, Minority, Ethnic. I think you have the same too. I want to scrap that term, and I know they're re-looking at that. Really, we should be called the global majority. But that was a term that's used in the report. Only 1% of BAME characters were main characters were from that background, basically. I think that's now risen to 7%. The stats are pretty bad. I don't know about you, but in 2020, you okay there?
Listen, I was gonna say, you really want me to talk about the stats in the US?
Oh yeah, I want to know. They might be in my next talk.
It needs to be. So one of the things that I am working on currently is a resource guide of Black-owned bookstores here in the United States, because I am looking for open resources for Black-owned authors to get their books out to mainstream. Because even though we're teaching people about self-publishing or helping them publish books, the other step is getting their book into a market where it actually can be seen and sold. Yeah. The stats here, I could give you numbers, but we both know that they're on the low side compared to what really, goes on, for the simple fact that Black authors are doing more self-publishing now because the same letters that you got, the same letters that you received, not only from agents, but from publishing companies, they receive them as well. I received them. It's not like our products or our books are the ones that they actually want to put on the market. And they're telling us the same thing. Can you please change Lakeisha to Carol? Okay. So I am very familiar with all of that. And what you're doing is, in essence, let's just say it, God's work, because who else would create that platform for us to get our voices seen, heard, and get the books out there of the people who really want their stories, not just their biographies, but their fictional tales as well out there. By the way, I'm working on my first fictional book.
Ooh, want to hear about this? Brilliant. Fiction's a whole different ballgame. My word, I started off with fiction before I started this. My first book I wrote I thought I'd finished it in 2011. It's a middle grade fantasy novel. That was the first book I thought I'd publish, but I've gone on to do 8 other non-fiction books. I've done my children's book, which is fiction. But I mean, when you're writing fiction, longer than like a short children's book, is tough. I'm still working on that fantasy novel, but it's great. It's great fun.
I'm outside of my purview, and I don't know why it was just put on my heart to write it this way. Everybody kept telling me I needed to write my story. I need to write about my life. I needed to do this and do that. But I'm not just the normal, I want to write a biography type of an author. And I'm always looking for a way to be unique and different. So I have turned my biography into a horror thriller.
A horror thriller. Okay, interesting. That's a great mix of genres.
Yeah.
Good way to hide real life characters as well, isn't it?
It is. And it's crazy because I did it that way based on something, a phrase that my ex-husband that's been ringing in my head for a very long time. So when he said that same spirit, different people. And I was like, oh, that would make a great horror film. Not only a horror film, but a horror book. To have the same spirit chasing a person in different forms throughout various phases of their lives. Oh, yeah, I'm already on it.
Oh my gosh, that's great. That's that. I'll have nightmares. We don't do horror because I'll just have nightmares. I'm like,
But that's why I said, listen, Danny, I'm outside of my purview. I don't even watch horror movies, okay?
no, I mean,
So to be writing a horror film, or writing a horror book, it's like, oh my God, I'm scared I go back and read it, and I was like, this is a little.
No, I think it sounds fun.
Yeah,
it sounds fun.
Yeah, like the last horror film I watched was Amityville Horrors, and I'm aging myself with that, okay? Like, and I'm not talking about the remake of Amityville Horrors. I'm talking about the real Amityville Horrors. And I read that book. See, I read the book first and decided I wanted to watch the movie. So hopefully that's how my book will inspire people. They'll read the book first and want to see some type of imagery of it.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. I think my last one was like Freddy Krueger back in the 80s. Anyway,
you and I are the same. Like I didn't even watch Freddy Krueger, so like horror is not my thing. So my next question to you is, how do you navigate the expectations that Black business owners should provide services at a discounted rate or for free?
How do I respond to that?
Yep.
2 letters. N-O. Ain't happening. So this is the thing, right? These people wouldn't walk into, I don't know, give me a big name, so Apple Store or Sony or Nike and ask for a discount. They wouldn't dare. If anything, if somebody, especially a Black business, if they provide a professional, brilliant service, I'll tip. And I do that for my heart and with intention because I value what they've offered. And we're never going to move forward if we think it's okay to even think about asking for a discount. Why? For what? It's just a lack of value. No, I'm sorry. For free? So my work must be for free. Our ancestors, so they saved us from that stuff. They
freed us from that, right? It's like we're not slaves.
I can't even give it airtime when people. I can't.
I understand that. Now, how do you maintain authenticity in an industry that often pressures Black entrepreneurs to conform to mainstream standards? We talked about that just recently, where you talked about how some of your clients have been asked to change the names in some of their books. So how do you actually deal with that?
I haven't personally experienced it because maybe I've just always done my own thing and I haven't got to that stage where I've had an agent or a publisher even to say that to me. How would I respond? This is why I love self-publishing. I mean, don't get me wrong, if HarperCollins turned around and said, we've got a great deal for you, blah blah, fantastic. But I'm sharing my story because it's something that's in my heart. I'm sharing a legacy. I'm sharing part of my culture. So to be then told it needs to be commercialized is no longer my story. It's for somebody else. And we do the somebody else a great disservice in thinking that they can't absorb or respect or surround themselves with a culture that's different to theirs, So again, it would be, thank you very much for your time, but
Now, looking back, what was one of the things you wish you had done differently in your early years of being an entrepreneur?
Things I wish I'd done differently. Value myself, value my services. But that comes with experience. It comes with confidence, and it also comes with having social proof and those testimonials. Do you know what I mean? When you're starting out, if I went in there and said, right, $20 million for whatever, without having it tested, they're not my prices, by the way. Just valuing valuing my time. I think somebody said it to me years ago. They said, just because something is easy for you and you can do that in 5 minutes because you know it off the back of your hand, it doesn't mean it's easy for somebody else. That could take that somebody else 10 days to do that same thing, and then they screw it up and they've got to do it all over again, which is how much money worth of their time, you know? So it's just seeing the value in your knowledge and your expertise and placing that value on it, and saying no to certain clients as well, maybe.
Okay, now you've published over 300 books and you've mentored over 1,000 writers. What's next for Conscious Dreams Publishing?
Good question. Well, I'm taking a little bit of a break this year. As you know, my personal life, I'm getting married. So, and that's a really important part.
I'm glad you're taking a break to focus on that.
Thank you. It's a big event, you know. All the book launch planning is helping with this planning. So I think I'm going to take some time out and really think about the direction that Conscious Dreams is going in. So we'll be publishing slightly less books, but I'm planning to do more group coaching, so online webinars, teaching people how, because we can't work with everyone, can we? We can't publish everyone's books, and sometimes people just need a little bit of knowledge to just move on to the next step and do it themselves, right? So I'll be doing more of that, and I want to do next year, I want to do more events. I love doing events, live events. It's fantastic.
Yes, I want you to do more events next year so I can come to them.
Yes, come.
Yeah, because I watch your events vicariously through Facebook, and I'm like, oh, I wish I was there. Okay. Yes. What legacy do you hope to leave for Black women in publishing and entrepreneurship?
Oh, let's have a sip of water for that. What legacy? What legacy? That's a good question. It's interesting because doing a lot of self-reflection, I kind of came to the conclusion that from being feeling voiceless before in my own life and coming from a lineage of women who have also felt voiceless, going deep into my ancestry, I think subconsciously or whatever, part of my purpose is to elevate and to create a platform where these voices are heard. So my legacy is not about being the voice, it's about giving that leverage, giving that platform for Black women. I mean, it's for everybody. My company isn't just for Black women. We've asked for Black women, but for Black women in particular, to feel like they have a space where their voice and their story is heard, undisturbed, untouched, so that they can leave a legacy. And more so for our young people. Like I said, me growing up, I didn't see any characters that looked like me or any authors. Now I have a full cohort of young Black, it's only girls at the moment. I've got about 12 young Black girls who are authors. Our youngest was 7 and our oldest is now 21. She was 15 when she came to me. And when I have kind of online meetings with them all, I try and get them together, storytelling workshops, I can hear them talking to the younger ones coming through. You know, I have a 9-year-old saying, oh, for my second book, I'm going to write about X, Y, and Z. They don't know the stigma that we had. They don't know the struggle that we had, because it's things are changing, the narrative is changing, and through self-publishing, these books are more visible, so it's more normal for them now. And that is the legacy I'd like to create, to just have been a part of that and to have created that platform.
Okay, now if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice before starting your business, what would it be?
Before starting my business? Be bold, be brave, don't be afraid to really live in the fullness of what you feel you're meant to be. And maybe I'm saying that to me now because there's still lots of big projects that I want to do, and I shelve them because I'll do the easy stuff. I'll do the easy stuff. I'll do this person's. I'll do that for this person. And then all these really exciting projects and ideas are kind of there because it feels like it's too big. So yeah, be bold, be brave, and don't be afraid to really go for it.
Okay. Okay. Now, my last question. For Black women struggling to take the first step into business, what's your number one piece of advice?
Taking the first step. Take the step. Take the step. So it's really interesting. This is so random. I know we haven't got time to get into it. I've got 2 baby pigeons known as squabs in this little nest box on my windowsill.
I follow their story.
It's crazy. It's crazy. For those who haven't, it started off with 1 white pigeon. It's been here for a year and a half. He's found a woman. She's had 2 babies, and now there's 2 more. It's just gone insane, right? Inspired me to write.
You're like the squirrel guy who had 1 squirrel, and now he has a family of squirrels. He's built a house for the squirrels. He's got squirrel neighbors. He's got like little squirrel condos going in.
Really?
Like, I'm watching you over here with this pigeon, and then it was like you almost got upset when he found a girlfriend. It was
I did. In the beginning, it was like, yay, now you're not going to be alone. And then 2 babies, and then they're pretty messy. So that's why you probably haven't seen as many videos about them. But it's life. Life isn't always clean. Sometimes
life is messy. Okay, life is messy.
But Carrie, today one of them took the first step out of the box, and I was watching him or her. Then I was watching them, teetering, looking down, looking around. I was like, "Go on, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it." And it was so amazing to watch. And it reminded me of the first time I published my book, because I felt, it's got my heart in it. Like your book, it's got personal things in there. I come from a family where you don't chat your business. So it's that feeling of fear, but once you take that leap, like, it's so exciting. If you've got something in your heart that you want to do, setting up a business, writing a book, whatever it is, like, imagine if you didn't take that step, you'd be stuck in that nest box forever. And who wants that? Take that leap, see what happens.
Yeah, just like the little birdies. It's like watching them take the jump and knowing they're going to fly. We have to take that as well. So I get that. Yes. So Danielle, I am going to drop off the screen, and I want you to tell people where to find you, your social media, your website, all of that information. Okay.
Okay. So you can find me at www.Conscious Dreams Publishing. I do offer free 20-minute consultations, which you can book via the site. You can find me on social media under Conscious Dreams Publishing on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also Danny Blechner on Facebook and Daniella Blechner on LinkedIn. I'm also on TikTok. I've got all different handles under Danny Blechner, and YouTube, Danny Blechner Book Journey Mentor.
Danny, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. And by the time you guys see this interview, Danny's going to be our cover model for the month of April. So I'm really looking forward to you guys reading her story, not only in the print publication, but also on the digital platform as well. So Danny, once again, thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this. And thank you for being such a dynamic Black business owner.
Thank you so much. And thank you to you and all the work you do. It's absolutely incredible. So
thank you. Listen, you guys, Danny's story is very similar to a lot of the business owners that we have spoken to. She proves that when doors don't open for us, we have the power to build our own. Through Conscious Dreams Publishing, she's not just publishing books. She's rewriting the narrative for Black authors and for authors who are being discriminated against, and entrepreneurs everywhere. If you're looking for a sign to step into your purpose and own your story, this is it. Your voice matters, your dreams are valid, and the world is waiting. Go create. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.